Okay, well, welcome to Manly Maxim number 1. Before we actually get into the first maxim, which is manly men do manly things, I'd like to focus your attention for just a few moments on one point from his introduction where Mansfield says that he believes that, at least in times past, men grew up and they were in the presence of or part of a tribe of men. So I just want to throw this out to all of us. In what way do you figure that in the past you did experience what it felt like to be in a fellowship of men where you might have learned how to be a man, or didn't you? Do you feel you missed out on something there?
Well, I think at first because I'm sitting next to you. But I grew up as the youngest with my father and Ryan as my cousin, and my older cousin Steve, his brother, and my brother John. And I felt like I was just naturally part of a group of men, and it was very easy for me to be part of that. And I got to watch them, and they modeled what it looks like to be a man, and it was pretty easy. It was pretty easy just to be a part of that culture. And then even from then, as I grew up, I mean, playing sports was huge, and having a great coach and being involved in other things like that. But I think that from a young age, being the youngest, I got to look up to a lot of guys already doing it.
Okay, John?
I was going to say the dynamic of what you just said, you go back in history, you go back to different cultures, and we have missed a lot of that in our modern society and world. Native Americans, those men were with men. They learn how to raise up and what was strength and bravery to them and hunting to them and maybe even fighting for them. Yeah. Or you go back to even the Middle Eastern culture, even looking at Jewish people, men with their sons at 13, the bar mitzvah, but the passageway of becoming a man, becoming responsible, becoming what their picture, and I think is a good picture, of being a manly man, let's use that term right there. But there's a dynamic greatly missing, I think, sometimes in our fast-paced modern culture of that happening.
Okay, either of you guys?
I was going to say, I was in Scouts, so we actually had, if you look at Cub Scouts, you're a Cub. That's part of like a pack. Yeah. That's what they called it, your pack. And then when you graduated up, you then went to Boy Scouts, and now you're gaining more responsibility, and the end goal is to obviously be an Eagle Scout. And so that's like the pinnacle of achievement within Scouts. But you're around.
Were you ever send you to Girl Scouts? Like
no, but it was fun when we used to play pranks when they were camping on the other side. We used to throw things to scare them, and that was great. But yeah, they also had this thing called the Order of the Arrow, and that's another tribal piece of it where you actually dress up with, no joke, just like a kilt type of outfit. Very interesting. And and they had different order selects. You different handshakes they can't show you or else they kill you type of thing. It's like CIA. And anyways, it was interesting to do that. My brother and I had a rivalry.
Did you teenage years?
Yeah, and I got it, and I got my Eagle Scout.
Were you an Eagle Scout?
Yeah, like nice. The day before my 18th birthday.
What'd you do?
My brother actually and I were in competition. He beat me by a week.
So just one quick question about that. My sons both went through Scouts.
Yeah.
When they were in Cubs, the predominance of the leaders were female. And it was only when they transitioned into Boy Scouts that it was mostly male leadership. Now, what was your experience?
Yeah, they had like den mothers. And it was kind of weak, that piece, because you felt like if the mothers were there, it took on a whole different dynamic. And then all of a sudden when it was just like, just the guys, like, yes. And I think that element of scouting is the best. Putting on a backpack, hiking 3 miles on a Friday night as cars are whizzing by it, trying to find your campsite in the middle of nowhere. You have no idea where you're going. You know, you don't. Yeah, there's no GPS. You just have to know where you're going. And it brought good things out of you.
Okay.
I can even remember in grade school getting my first male teacher, not a female teacher, and it was 6th grade. Yeah. I thought this was the greatest thing. He took us out at recess. This is how you throw a football, boys. This is how you catch the ball. Yeah. He drove a 1967 Corvette convertible, and it was good stuff. Yeah. It was just a different feeling, dynamic, and I think it was very healthy. Very
good. I want to keep this moving along. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. So you're in an environment where you see a lot of kids. Yeah. What's the age group that you're teaching?
I teach 11 and 12-year-olds right now. Middle school.
Okay. So do you think that you can detect, just from your distant position, that there's a difference between guys who have had some male mentoring in their lives already and those who haven't?
Absolutely. And I think when you said that, first male teacher, how many women have come up to me at parent-teacher conferences saying, he he doesn't really have a male influence in his life, a role model, so I'm really glad he has you this year. And I could have told you that before the parent-teacher conference. They just seem, I guess I don't want to say lost, but as an 11 and 12-year-old boy coming into middle school, they have no guidance of what a man looks like. They really don't understand how to act or how to even do simple things like take care of women first, open a door for a lady, or how do you get a girl to like you back, and how do you show emotion to a girl. They've never been taught from a father how to act on a sports team, how to show anger, how to show frustration in appropriate ways, how to make appropriate jokes. They don't understand boundaries because they have no one to teach them.
All right, so hold that. Now, you two, youth, age group that you're working with?
6th to 12th grade.
Okay.
Same thing. I mean, I was just thinking about it when we were just on our retreat. You know, that you can tell, I guess, guys who maybe don't have as strong leadership when it comes to even we always want to make it a priority to let the girls go first.
Right.
And, to let them eat first. Something simple like that. In my mindset, they complain because they want to eat right away. But for me, it's like, well, we want to train you guys how to put girls first, even at a young age, to honor them, to respect them, to be hopefully a respectful husband someday, and even just that, that little thing is sometimes such a struggle with young guys. They're just not used to.
So remember, we're doing this for the benefit of other people, so I'd like to bring this all together with one final question.
Yeah.
It's not enough to complain about things. What role can the church serve in trying to provide some sort of a masculine culture in which those who didn't have a tribe of their own to kind of bring them along? Does the church have a role, and how do we find that?
I want to say not even just the church, but I remember our first day of school this year, our principal made a point to say to 150 middle schoolers, boys, in this school, you will open the door first for women. And that's amazing.
Good.
So, I mean, in the church, yes, you need men that are watching this video, and you need men that are in the church making the example, right? But even outside of that, what are you doing outside of church at Target and at stores and at places of your business that show that you're going to be a true man of authority by actually serving others? And I think that's pretty critical too.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was just going to say along those lines, I know one of the biggest things within the churches and within schools as well is to find a model of manhood in general, a father, to those who are also fatherless. There's a lot of homes these days that without both parents. And that's a big dilemma. That's a shift that's occurred over the last 30, 40, 50 years now. And for us to be able to address it is in terms of what does that look like in God's kingdom, and ultimately how does He equip us as men to be able to to be the fathers at home. And that's ultimately what we're going to drive towards here, which is great.
And it's never too late.
No.
It's never too late to start.
And he says it only takes one.
Yeah.
At some part in one of these chapters, he says it only takes one to go out and to model it. And I think that's for all of us here to be able to do, is to go out and model it.
Model it positively, because
That's right.
the model
That's right.
that we've seen so much in the last 50 years of TV is the man of the home is a Peter Griffin, the man of the home is an Al Bundy,
Right.
the man of the home is this doofus,
Yeah.
but he's not. God's got
Right.
a whole different intent and plan and picture.
Well, let me use what you just said, and we'll segue right into Maxim number 1. That's manly men do manly things. So think about your idea of what it means to do manly things. As a matter of fact, let's take us all back to the time we were, let's say, 12 years old. At 12 years old, what did it mean to you to do manly things, to the best that you might have understood it then? Anybody?
Ryan?
I mean, I can't even. I'm trying to think back to when I was 12 years old. It feels like a long time ago, and I'm not that old.
And if I can remember 12 years
I just
old,
can't.
come
I'm
on,
trying to
Ryan.
think. I mean, we used to play sports every day. That's what we did. We would just get up, we'd get together with friends. We play video games every once in a while, but they weren't as entertaining, I guess, as they are now. So we hung out outside. We'd go to the park every day. We'd play football. We like to play tackle football without pads and hit each other and then laugh about it. Sometimes we'd box each other and videotape it, watch it afterwards because we thought it was funny. I mean, we just did goofy things that guys do. You don't really,
All right, so John, you said you do remember.
oh yeah.
So bring it.
I remember 12 years old, my dad, several things. He'd come home and he'd hit me fly balls. I'd just go on as long as he would. Hit me fly balls, I'll catch fly balls. At 12 years old, he was getting back into golf, and he took me to the golf course, and I'd watch him and my uncles, or he let me hit some golf balls, learn to hit golf balls. Took me out, here's a shotgun, this is how you shoot the shotgun, it's gonna kick, it's gonna do this, you know. Some of those things, or, let me tell you, my dad was into cars, going to car dealerships and shopping for cars, looking at cars, that was a normal thing, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I picked up that addiction, it's his fault. But anyway, those are some of the things I remember, that's 12 years old.
great.
Yeah.
All right, so let's reel it in here a little bit. So the primary focus of this first maxim, he says, is that you can tell a lot about a man's character by what he does. This is a way he words that action is character. So you can look at what a man does in his day-to-day life, and you kind of determine what's going on inside of his heart. So if that's true, what's the character of a typical man in 21st century United States culture? Anybody?
Ask that question again, repeat that.
Yeah.
That's good.
If action is character, and if you can tell a lot about what's going on inside a guy's heart by watching what he does, then if we look out at society as a whole, what does it say about the character of the men in 21st century of America if you simply watch what they do?
I think it's weird because, like, our age, well, like, you got 20 to 30 men are like the weirdest generation of men ever because they're not married and they don't have like steady jobs because. I mean, there's some real reasons to that, right?
Yes, there are.
They don't have a
really
father
are.
themselves, and they don't know how to ever go to get a wife and what to do. And the economy isn't that great. But guys, it's weird because they're not like they had a job, they went to college, and now they just do like nothing. Like they just work at like a store and they live in their parents' basement still. Like it's just kind of what my age does. Not my friends, but a lot of people my age.
Well, let's take it down that road. I really didn't want to go down that road. But if we go back 50 years, there was an assumption that a man did the right thing, the honorable thing by a woman. And that doesn't mean that we lived in a society where everybody was married and they were a virgin until the day they were married.
That's right.
But there was very much an assumption that if a guy, I'll say, took advantage of a girl, that it was the honorable thing for him to man up and make what they used to call an honest woman of her.
Yeah.
In other words, to marry her and they'd settle in, and he would not the sole provider necessarily. That kind of
They would
sounds
struggle a
sexist.
few years, work hard,
Yeah, but
Yeah, you just do it.
I mean, amongst, and this is not a put down to people of your generation, but you're talking about the guys who live in their basement. Is there an assumption that's maybe changed that it's okay for me to just get what I can as long as I can get it for as free as I can get it without any level of?
Well, they're giving it away too.
I'm not going all there, but what I'm saying is, what does that say about us?
I think it's cyclical, right? So these guys that we're talking about probably didn't have stand-up fathers, right? And now they are just producing what's been given to them. So right, they're just going to make another generation of not stand-up fathers.
Or they had dads who were there in presence but weren't there in any other way.
Yeah.
And so they saw maybe a dad who
body.
worked hard and did all that kind of things, but still would maybe come home and like zone out and not like invest and be involved in their lives. And so they experience like, okay, you have responsibility and stuff like that, but you're not invested. You're not all in.
And we learn a lot by just observing and watching.
That's what the book says. The book says, right? You don't learn from taking notes on a guy. You learn from a culture. Is what we're talking about.
And what I see, so what does a man do? Well, men, for their entertainment, they go to strip clubs.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
This is, men do this and men do that. But that's what we're talking about. That's not the manly thing.
Absolutely, and I think we also, if we're talking over a course of culture over the last 40 years, we're also seeing the feminist movement and all of a sudden the rise of female power, and of course there's been a lot of balancing there, but at the same point in time, it's also at the expense of men, and what do men look like today? And I think that's overall as a culture, we all need to be the same.
Okay.
That's where it's heading.
Yeah.
We're all the same. Oh, you want to be that? You want to be this? You want to be that? Yeah, it's all moving towards this middle ground, and we've lost. It's like salt and pepper. They're great to season a meal as long as you can eat them.
Right.
And that's not saying
Brand food.
Yeah, if you got high blood pressure, put that aside. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you have those seasonings, and we've lost our flavor.
I'm started. So let me move on to the next thing, because I think another one of the tendencies of men today, and you can agree or disagree, is the desire to avoid risk. the desire to, pain is bad, gain is good, comfort is the ultimate goal. So if you think about even in commercials, what's portrayed, the idea that the more money you can make, the easier you can make it, there's a pill for everything.
Yeah.
I remember a line from a movie, and I forget what it was, where it's like the guy says, and he's talking to a group of upper class people, and he says, "You've never just had a cold, have you? When you have a cold, you go look for a pill to take." I deal with a group of people that they just have things. They don't know what it's like to have something to make the thing go away. They just have things. But I think in 21st century America, our goal is to make life as safe, as predictable, as almost vanilla as possible, and we set that up as something to aspire toward.
I think
What do-
you're
what do
right.
you
I
think?
think you're onto something there. I think that's portrayed. That seems to be what's thrown out there, but that is not the way a man is made, though. That's not really in him to be like that. But we're being sold that bill of goods.
So based on what you just said, now this is really powerful. If there is a craving inside of me that can only be met by risk of some sort, a challenge, adventure, but if all of that is stripped out of what I do every day, then where am I going to go to find that risk? Am I going to do reckless, stupid, dumb things
Yeah.
to pursue my heart's desire instead of doing good stuff?
Yeah, and the chapter in this book, it talks about that as wildness. I'm sure we'll have another video on that. But that's an amazing chapter, and it talks about how it's just coming out in the wrong areas and wrong avenues.
That's
How that
exactly right.
intensive, wild at heart attitude is just being portrayed in total wrong avenues, and it leads to destruction.
Okay, last question,
Yeah.
because we're going to move on here. So, for believers, what does fellowship with God on a day-to-day basis do for us as far as allowing us to plunge into healthy risk? Like, should we have an advantage when it comes to risking boldly if we're sons of God?
Well, I think, personally, I think that a lot of times the reason we don't take risks is we're scared to fail, right? We're scared of screwing up, so, or who we might let down. When we are grounded in our relationship with the Lord, and we realize that He loves us unconditionally, you're not scared to take risks as much because you know that your acceptance with Him is not really based on
Right.
if you are successful or if you fail, you're loved regardless unconditionally. And so it allows you to not be so reluctant to take risks, I guess. And I mean, I at least feel that way. The more that I'm focused on Him, the more that I'm allowed to just kind of go after the jump all in and realize that there's nothing that's holding me back from that, I guess.
So your faith, contrary to being a stumbling block, is actually enhancing your ability to be able to take risks boldly, is what you're
Oh,
saying.
yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Definitely.
I think we kind of need to pull this one together. We don't want to leave here without a couple of scriptures. John and Dave, did you
You go first.
either of
Yeah, I
you-
had a couple.
first.
I basically went after the courageous and brave aspects of being strong, fighting bravely, to be of good courage, to fight, to be courageous. Those are 1 Chronicles 19:13, 2 Samuel 10:12, and also I think Joshua 1:9. You know, have I not commanded you, be strong, of good courage, right? Not afraid.
Yeah.
Be a man.
I like what he says right before that too in that same scripture.
Yeah, absolutely, the 1:8, yeah.
He says
Yeah.
like, you know, you want to be successful in
That's right,
everything, to meditate on the word day and night.
That's exactly right.
what we were just talking about,
Amen.
you know?
Amen.
It's like, here, meditate on this.
That's
Obey
right.
the instructions that Moses gave you
Yep.
and meditate on the word
That's
day and
right.
night. You'll be successful and prosperous in everything you do. That
That's
gives
right.
you the courage,
Absolutely.
the courage to do that. So.
Amen.
But that's the journey God's called us on, and from this is so exciting and so great about God's word from Genesis to Revelation. He's called us out to take those risks, to be adventurous, to trust Him. He's calling us to something more and something greater, and not to have this little calm, passive, comfortable life. That's the word I was looking for that you just used, Glenn, because we think that's the goal. Let me get the comfort. And He's called us to achievement, to do, and I'm not exaggerating, great things for Him.
Absolutely.
That's what He's called us to.